Speak Out program is for people with Parkinson's disease or a Parkinson's-like disorder. If you've heard of, Lewy body dementia, Robin Williams had that disease. But it's a 12-session program where we are teaching them to speak with intent. So people with Parkinson's disease, they have sensory loss, in their brains. And so the way I'd like to kind of refer to it to people or give them the picture is it's sort of like the volume dial, say, in their brain is turned down a bit. So they tell us, I feel like I'm shouting, and they might be talking like this. They come in talking very quietly, but to them, they're shouting. They say, I feel like even if I raise my volume a few, decibels, I feel like I'm shouting at you, and they're not. But it's because that volume meter has sort of been turned down, and so they have this more quiet sounding voice. So we are then teaching them to speak with intent. A lot of people with Parkinson's take very, very small steps. Everything they do becomes much smaller. Their handwriting becomes smaller. So we do this intense 12-week program. They are to do the homework at home twice a day. We get their spouse or their caregiver involved. It's just a great program to really get them back to a normal sounding voice so that their friend or their neighbor isn't always, what did you say? What'd you say? I can't hear you. Speak up.
So my grandfather was probably one of the strongest men I ever knew. He got Parkinson's.
Mm-hmm.
And to watch him when you said, they take the small steps.
Right.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Louis from iLiving Media. Welcome back to another podcast. Today, we are here with Kristen Winter of SpeechRx. How are you doing today, Kristen?
Hi, great. Thank you.
Good. Just give me a little bit about what you do. So you SpeechRx. Can you explain that a little bit for me?
Sure. So my practice is SpeechRx, speech and swallowing therapy. We are located here in Stuart, just down the road here on East Ocean Boulevard. And we provide speech, swallowing, voice, cognitive therapy for adults.
What initially drew you to SpeechRx? What drew you to this field? What made you want to go here?
So originally, I was thinking I wanted to maybe become a physical therapist or a teacher. And I was in school, and my father is an optometrist actually here in town. And he actually recommended, hey, what about speech therapy? So he also did visual therapy in his optometry office, and I observed him a bit, when I was in high school. And so that's what kind of led me into the field of speech therapy. So I've been working for over 20 years. I've worked in several hospitals. I've worked in home health, nursing homes. My last job was 12 years here at our local hospital. And then I decided to open up my own practice in 2020.
Oh, okay. So it's fairly new, 2020.
It is.
What exactly is speech therapy?
So, speech therapy for adults is very different from what most people think about speech therapy with children. Most people with children think about stuttering or problems articulating or saying their words. So, speech therapy for adults, though, typically are needed for people after they've had strokes, maybe Parkinson's disease. But also there's a huge swallowing disorder component of that actually a lot of the U.S. is not aware of really until you know someone who's had a swallowing problem. The medical term is called dysphagia. And so we do a lot of dysphagia or swallowing therapy in the office too. And that again is people that may have had strokes, Parkinson's, but often head and neck cancer. And after chemo and radiation, that can very much affect their throat and tongue and mouth muscles to swallow.
So does that have to do like with is it the esophagus? Is it because of swelling and they need to retrain the muscle?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
You can have some esophagus problems, but also in your mouth, in your tongue, and in your throat, they can become weakened because of the radiation.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's interesting. That's interesting stuff because I saw
Yeah.
the speech part of it and I was like, okay, I
Right.
kind of understand that. I
Right.
didn't know there's a difference between, the childhood and the adult. So that's pretty awesome.
Right.
But I definitely never heard of the swallowing therapy and I didn't even know that was a thing.
Right. A lot of
That's great.
people don't. That's right.
Yeah, the
That's
key
right.
is to get the word out there.
That's right.
What are some of the beneficial services that SpeechRx offers?
So I have three therapists that work with me, and we specialize in different aspects of speech, language, cognitive, and then swallowing therapy. So I specialize more in treating head and neck cancers, like I was talking about earlier, and then swallowing disorders, but then also voice therapy, and also chronic cough. Now, my colleague works quite a bit with people after having things like strokes, Parkinson's disease, typically more of that, speech articulation problem that you know about, or inability to think of the words you want to say after having a stroke or maybe a head injury, a brain tumor, and things like that. Um, but something newer to our field that's come out, roughly in the past, say, 10 years or so, is working with people with chronic cough. And a lot of people are not familiar with that. So, a chronic cough can happen after you've had, say, an upper respiratory infections, or, say, a virus or COVID-19 that caused a prolonged coughing, during that virus. So, a chronic cough is determined that you are someone that has a chronic cough if you're coughing longer than 8 weeks or longer than 2 months. So you have your cold, you're coughing, you're sick, you might take antibiotics, and then you technically get better. But some people prolong that and continue this coughing for months and months or even years later. And so they may go to their ENT or their ear, nose, and throat doctor. They might go to their pulmonologist. They might go to their general practitioner. And people are often searching, why do I have this cough, this nagging cough that will just not go away? Well, with some people, you develop what's called like a sensory neuropathic cough. So we've coughed after, say, the cold or after having COVID. And those nerves in our throat become hypersensitive. So it's called laryngeal hypersensitivity. So your larynx or your throat becomes hypersensitive. And then you cough, that there's a nerve in there that can become activated and hypersensitive from all of that coughing. And then more coughing leads to even more coughing, or even throat clearing the same. Like, I don't know if you've ever met anyone that is kind of always going constantly clearing their throat. Now, that it could be allergies, it could be sinuses, it could also be reflux. There's a bunch of different things that can cause that. And typically we get referrals from, like I said earlier, from an ENT doctor, or from your general practitioner, or a GI specialist. And one of their diagnoses is a chronic cough. So we give people strategies, breathing exercises, and things to do to kind of calm down that nerve and calm that cough. And we've had just super, super success.
So I saw something interesting when we were researching you.
Sure.
You've been recognized with multiple ACE awards for your continuing education efforts. Can you give me some insights of how continuing education has impacted your practice?
Yes, sure. So, an ACE award with my national board is, we have to acquire 30 continuing ed hours every 2 years. So, people that acquire 70 or more are awarded this ACE award. So, when I opened up my private practice, I just really dove into the continuing ed hours. I flew out, honestly, all over the country, to Las Vegas, North Carolina, Boston, all the great conferences, just to really learn as much as I could about starting a speech therapy private practice. And then also just learning more about the modalities that I really wanted to, help. So, so I received that for 4 years in a row. And again, it was just my thirst of knowledge and education, just to better myself, just to be able to provide the best care that I could.
That's awesome.
Oh,
And the continuing education, I think, in any field is huge,
right.
right? So you can't just, okay, I went to school, I did this. Like for me with marketing, right?
Yes.
Um, I've been marketing for a long time, but if I'm not learning, continuing to learn, then I'm just going to fall behind. So
Absolutely.
you want to know all the new things that are happening. What are the new tactics for marketing, at least? And I'm sure you have new procedures or new exercises you can have people do that help you out. So that's amazing. I love that. I love the continuing education part. I do see one here, Stroke Champion Award. Okay, so you got to unpack that one for me. What does that mean? What's the recognition of that? What does it mean to you personally and for your business professionally?
So, I was awarded that Stroke Champion Award when I was working at the hospital because I started a stroke support group actually back in 2010 with the hospital. And then during COVID, so March in 2020, this group was very vibrant. We probably had about 20 participants that came every month, and we had to go to a Zoom format. We had to go online. So I sort of spearheaded that group into, okay, how are we going to, present this on Zoom? How do we get, our participants to get on Zoom? And so because of that, and then I think my longevity with the stroke support group, I was awarded that Stroke Champion Award. And so, and I also, while I was working at the hospital, I was awarded about a $7,000 grant from the Women in Philanthropy to really help bolster that stroke support group. We bought a bunch of stroke activities and iPads and things for people to use within the group. So that was just a very rewarding group that I belong to, and that's one of my passions, which led me to start another support group with my private practice.
I love it. I love it. I love that you have a passion about what you do.
Oh, thank you.
That's great. I mean, I've run across a lot of people who they've been doing things for a long time or they open a business and they say, I literally had a gentleman tell me, I said, why'd you open this business? For the money. And
Oh,
I said, well, that's kind of sad.
yeah,
Like, I think you have to have a passion behind it. You have to love what you're doing. What do they say?
absolutely.
If you love what you're doing, you never work a day in your life, right?
Yes.
So that's a beautiful thing. I love it. So I'm looking through again here, and you're gonna have to help me with this. I think you said it before.
Mhm.
Your specialized program, one of your specialized programs, one that I see is the McNeil dysphagia. Am I saying that right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have that program, and then after that, if you could tell me about what the Speak Out program is.
Okay, sure. So it's McNeil dysphagia.
Okay.
Just so you know. So dysphagia is a swallowing impairment. So the McNeil dysphagia protocol is this like, sort of this systematic approach to having, say, a patient with a stroke or a neurological disease come in. They are assessed, and then they begin what we call, sort of in the speech pathology world, a bolus driven therapy. And a bolus is when you take a sip of water or a bite of food, that becomes a bolus. And so we have them take, say, 60 to 80 swallows of a drink or of food within our session, and a pretty fast, rapid fire type of swallowing protocol to really retrain those muscles how to swallow again. It's all about neuroplasticity. If you've ever heard about that, it's kind of use it or lose it. So, people that have had, say, a massive stroke that has very much affected their swallowing muscles, those muscles become very, very weak, say, on one side of their throat. And so, you need to practice this bolus driven frequent sips to kind of train the brain. Okay, this is how we're going to work, even with that weak inside. This is how we're going to swallow and get the food down or get the drink down.
And what about the Speak Out program?
So the Speak Out program is for people with Parkinson's disease or a Parkinson's like disorder. If you've heard of, Lewy body dementia, Robin Williams had that disease. It is a 12 session program where people get it's wonderful, a free book in the mail. It is run by the Parkinson Voice Project out of Texas, and they are fully grant-based. They run a free program, so they send this workbook to people, and they ask, if you'd like to pay it forward to give a donation, so people can do that. But it's a 12-session program where we are teaching them to speak with intent. So people with Parkinson's disease, they have sensory loss, in their brains. And so the way I'd like to kind of refer to it to people or give them the picture is it's sort of like the volume dial, say, in their brain is turned down a bit. So they tell us, I feel like I'm shouting, and they might be talking like this. They come in talking very quietly, but to them, they're shouting. They say, I feel like even if I raise my volume a few, decibels, I feel like I'm shouting at you, and they're not. But it's because that volume meter has sort of been turned down, and so they have this more quiet sounding voice. So we are then teaching them to speak with intent. That is speak out's really cardinal rule, I guess you could say, or what they really want us to teach people is every action that you do with your voice and everything you do in your life should be speaking with intent. Because a lot of people with Parkinson's take very, very small steps. Everything they do becomes much smaller. Their handwriting becomes smaller, the whole gamut. So we do this intense 12-week program. They are to do the homework at home twice a day. We get their spouse or their caregiver involved. It's just a great program to really get them back to a normal sounding voice so that their friend or their neighbor isn't always, think, what did you say? What'd you say? I can't hear you. Speak up.
So my grandfather was probably one of the strongest men I ever knew. He got Parkinson's,
Hmm.
and to watch him when you said, they take the small steps,
Right.
to watch him go through that and to listen to him speak was really tough.
Right.
So I really respect that Speak Out program.
Sure. Did he ever participate in speech
He
therapy?
didn't.
Okay.
It would have been great to know about it,
Yeah.
because again, I mean, he was just a funny, strong,
Mm,
we used to say he had a green thumb. He could plant anything and
right.
it would grow.
Hmm.
And just a great man. I wish I would have known about something like that. This happened when I was probably, I don't know, maybe 17, 18 years old.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that would have been great. So I'm glad there's programs like that out there. It's a
Hmm.
beautiful thing. I love it.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
So can you share any success stories or testimonials?
Sure. So actually, just yesterday, I had a woman that came in just for her second treatment session with chronic cough. So she came in last week with me, and within 1 week, she came back. She used all of the strategies I taught her, the diaphragmatic breathing. Exercises using those lozenges, like I talked about. She was another one that had a holes in her purse. I think that's sort of the go-to lozenge that people buy. I think it must be advertised. Or they must be marketed well. Um, and then also there's a program called a resonant voice therapy. I had her do a bit of resonant voice, and then just teaching her those chronic cough strategies. To swallow again, take a sip of water, suck on the lozenges, and really trying to catch yourself and stop yourself from that throat clearing or that coughing before it happens. There's a few other strategies too that I like to teach people, but she was a great success story. And she came in, and honestly, she's in her 80s, and she said, "You know what? I have so many other doctor's appointments. I am so thrilled. I feel like I know what to do. I don't think I need to come back, but I know where to come." And so she was just thrilled. She even told me that she told another friend about it,
Oh,
that was suffering with it. So it's out there, and I think a lot of people don't know about chronic cough, or they've got this little tickle that often is occurring, like you were saying, and they don't really know what it is. Or sometimes it can just become a habit. Like I said, people can start clearing their throat, and then the more they do it, the more, like I said before, that nerve gets irritated, and then the more you do clear your throat. So she was a great success story. I have another success story, though, that I'm just so proud of. A man that had head and neck cancer. He had cancer of his tonsils. He had chemo and radiation. He came to me with a feeding tube in his stomach. So he was only able to take his feedings through like cartons of supplements into a feeding tube. People do water flushes. I don't know if, the majority of the population may not have ever met anyone that has a feeding tube. But through his really hard work and diligence and coming in for therapy, in about 7 months, we got him to a point where he could enjoy drinks. He could enjoy at least like soft, more pureed and then soft foods. And then he was able to have his feeding tube removed. And that was his goal. So that's something, myself and my other speech pathologists that work with me, we always ask people, what are your goals? It shouldn't be what are my goals. It shouldn't be me sitting doing an assessment and telling you this is what you need to do. It's, talking to them. What are your goals? What are your family's goals? What do you want to improve in your life? And because I have some people that honestly are okay with having a feeding tube. They say, you know what, it's kind of easier. Or they'll say, I might enjoy having a drink or might, something here and there. But to me, it's sort of easier having the feeding tube. I don't want to worry about that. So, it's not everyone's goal to come in to us and have that feeding tube removed. So that's just something that I'm very proud of at our practice, that we really look at the whole person. We look at people holistically. We're not just dealing with their speech or cognitive or voice problem. We really dive deep and want to know all about them, all about their family, all about their prior work if they're retired, all about their hobbies and what do they want to get back to doing.
That's great because if you come in and you just set up a plan, you just say, okay, this is what you need to do.
Right,
And like you said, am I going to meet the goals that I want to meet?
right.
Because you kind of want to set the expectation. Because I would think in one sense too, their goals may be too lofty, and it may be where you have to say, well, we can get you here, but that might be a bit of a stretch. We'll try to get you there. But to have a program set up, that's why you probably want to know their goals ahead of time.
Absolutely. You're right. Because I have had people that have, someone with head and neck cancer that says, I want to be able to eat a cheeseburger and a hard pretzel again. Well, you know what? That might not be attainable. It might not. Maybe you could do a cheeseburger without the bun. Maybe we could find some softer snack for you, but a hard pretzel, but that's, you never know. We work hard. We have our patients do their exercises, and sometimes, they surprise us.
Yeah, because I guess even if you set that lofty goal and you're working towards it, you never know what might happen because that's what you're working towards. So if you can even get 90% of that way, that's good for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right.
What are your goals coming? I know you just started in 2020, right?
Right.
Okay, so it's fairly new, 4
Uh-huh.
years in.
Uh-huh.
So what are your goals? What's your next 5-year goal? What's your big goal?
So I would say the next 5-year goal would be to really continue what we're doing. Honestly, I feel like we are providing the best speech pathology services around. And I would, possibly like to hire another speech therapist or two. My other therapists work part-time for me. I have dabbled and thought about, possibly opening up another office in St. Lucie. But honestly, there is a bit of a shortage of speech pathologists around this area. So I know that that is just harder to come by. And then specifically in more of the working with people with head and neck cancer or some of the voice disorders is more specialized. So, if the person presented to me and was ready to tackle trying to open up a practice up in St. Lucie, that would be something I would consider.
Yeah, St. Lucie's growing at an alarming rate.
Absolutely.
I live out there in the Becker area.
Right.
I've been here since 1989,
Okay.
from when Becker was dirt roads. So
Right.
to watch how much it's grown, then we had the crash and now it's blowing up again.
Right.
That would be a great spot. And there's a lot, I think there will be a lot of people for you out there. How do you raise awareness about this? How do you raise awareness about the swallowing disorders and
Mhm.
about speech disorders?
Our group meets, we're meeting actually tomorrow night. So we meet on the third Thursday of every month. We have a speaker coming on tomorrow night. They actually have a novel dry mouth lubricant spray. So that's probably something a lot of people don't know about either. So after having radiation to your mouth and throat area, it really can destroy your saliva glands in your jaw, under your tongue, on your tongue, and your throat. And so those people really suffer from having a dry mouth. They're constantly having to take sips of water, but then it comes right back. So this company wanted to come on. They had this new, it's called a lipid protein spray. It's not a water-based spray. So they're claiming it's really going to help people with dry mouth, and whether it be from head and neck cancer. There's another disease called Sjogren's disease, where people really have a dry mouth because their salivary glands are damaged or inactive and don't produce enough saliva for them. So it's very hard to talk. Like even you and I talking for 20 some minutes, it's hard to talk if your mouth is really dry, or you wake up, in the middle of the night or in the morning and you just have feel like, total dry desert mouth. It's hard to eat with a dry mouth, constantly taking sips of water. So I'm very excited to learn about this product, and also just hope to really spread the word. And we've just been trying to get the word, marketing the flyers to, local doctors, ENTs, GI doctors, the ones that deal with people and see people with dysphagia or swallowing impairments. Also, my colleague runs the stroke support group that I founded. She now runs it at a local hospital here. So she's very involved with that. Teaches about stroke awareness, strategies, tips, things for people with strokes, for their caregivers. We also have presented at the local Parkinson's group. There's a group that meets at Symphony ALF here in Stewart, and we've also presented at an ALF or an assisted living in St. Lucie. We've presented the Speak Out program, or swallowing therapy and exercises to that Parkinson's group. So we're really trying to get the word out more, trying to educate people, because that is a lot about what it is. A lot of doctors or people know what a physical therapist is. I just think people know, okay, you have a sports injury, orthopedic injury, or stroke, you need help walking again. They know about physical therapy, but just so many people don't know what speech pathologists do, for adults that need speech therapy.
Yeah.
Like I said, voice, swallowing therapy. It's just not known, again, until you need it yourself, or someone or someone in your family needs it. So again, so I just appreciate so much, this podcast, so that I can, try to reach more people, because I know there's more people out there that need our services.
What's the one thing on the podcast that you want people to know?
I think it's that really we are not just a private practice out there, that has a lot of, the latest and greatest modalities and therapy techniques, but we really want people, when you come into our office, to feel like you're kind of sitting at, your best friend's kitchen table, and that you can chat with us, and we get to, learn about you, learn about your impairments, but really learn, holistically all about, what's going on in your life, to really help you achieve the best outcomes.
And for people who need to reach you, can you tell them how they can reach SpeechRx?
Yes. So our website is www.speechrx.org, or our phone number 772-781-3740. We're also on social media. We are on Facebook at SpeechRx, Instagram at SpeechRx Therapy, and we're also on YouTube.
Awesome.
So people can actually go onto YouTube and watch some of our videos that we've taught you in the practice. They can go home, because we know that sometimes people, they come in, they watch us do the exercises. We teach them to, how to do the exercises, but maybe it's 2 days later and they're like, oh, wait, what did they say? What do I do? So now they can log on to YouTube and we're right there, and we can show you the exercises.
That's great because if it was me, I'll tell you the truth. I mean, I could sit with you and go home and I forgot. So it's good
Right,
that you have a YouTube channel.
right, right.
Well, thank you so much for
Thank
coming in. I
you.
appreciate you so much.
I appreciate you having me. Thanks a lot.